Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. That's where I work. About to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show. After a game, many of you, I can hear it. I can hear you out there already. I haven't looked in the chat room because we had to get this going pretty quick here. Didn't give a lot of time for the chat room, although people like Julian Moosh, attendance is fine. Stacy says hi. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I know what a lot of you are saying. This is a game where you say, what's the line when your team wins a game? Maybe good teams find ways to win. That's what we always say, right? Isn't that what is said all the time? The Winnipeg Jets undoubtedly are a good team. 13-1 now after this. That's no fluke. And the Winnipeg Jets won this hockey game. They no doubt found a way. And while Gabriel Vilardi had said it was as simple as Connor Hellebuyck won the Winnipeg Jets this game, I don't necessarily agree with that. I get the mindset. I get that the team is upset with the kind of game that they played there, but little bit of time left on the clock there. Puck gets into the slot, a diving stick lift to stop that. Tons of great candidates for the Johnson Group got you covered play of the game here. Neil Pionk, I think, steals a puck from an open net. I personally think that while almost nothing was working for the Winnipeg Jets at some point in this game, that their idea of what they did really well against Utah, protecting the guts of the ice, is what their coach says it. In the end, in this game, there was not a lot of space there, and there was a lot of like missed pucks and lifted sticks and not a lot of second opportunities in the heart of the ice there. There definitely weren't players standing around tapping in wide open shots into the back of the net. I do think that the Winnipeg Jets did a good job battling. I do think they did a good job protecting the guts of the ice when it came down to it. All that said, let's be realistic with ourselves here. The Colorado Avalanche came into this game. I was asked on Sportsnet before the game, did a hit with them about how I expected this to go. The one thing I know about the Colorado Avalanche is they're a team that have brought in a lot of new players. They've got a lot of significant injuries right now. And talked with Devon Tays, who did a really, really good job of expressing with this team that there's clearly no panic. They've been through this before. He thinks, you don't really start worrying about this kind of stuff until Christmas time, as long as you don't fall too far out of it. With a team like Nashville falling the way they have, and, when the teams that you're chasing for a playoff spot are the likes of Utah and St. Louis, it probably gives you a little bit of leeway. But he talked about it being a team that's really trying to bring their new players, their young guys up to speed, trying to figure out their identity. So here's a team trying to figure out its identity. And I've said this before, the Winnipeg Jets know who they are. And we'll get to this because, with some of the analysis that we've had on this show, I just think is platinum, gleaming, sparkling analysis when you take coaches who are saying, well, that's exactly like you're saying. That regardless, I thought that the Winnipeg Jets were going to roll tonight, but I also thought the Winnipeg Jets were going to roll in the playoffs last year. Make no mistake about it. This game had Game 1 2024 playoffs vibes to it. Not because there was a million different goals in that game and just everything was going. This was that game, but with outstanding goaltending on both sides of the ice. But the reason it had game 1 vibes to me is the Winnipeg Jets escaped that game with a win. And you get the sense if that game had gone on too much longer, things were going to turn and eventually go in the way of the Colorado Avalanche. You had that same feeling in this game here tonight. Make no mistake about it, the plane was hijacked on this night tonight, okay? The Colorado Avalanche hijacked the plane, and the only thing that saved it was that Connor Hellebuyck fought off the Colorado Avalanche in an effort in a way that we haven't seen since Harrison Ford did it to all the terrorists in Air Force One back in the 90s. It took a Harrison Ford-esque effort by Connor Hellebuyck here tonight to land the plane that has been hijacked. There was a massive swath of this game where the Colorado Avalanche took over. There were no answers. At 5-on-5, they looked like it was a power play for almost the entirety of, the back half of the second period and the third period. And while that's concerning, I guess you can look and you can say, well, it's Nathan McKinnon, it's Mikko Rantanen, it's Devon Toews, it's Arturi Lehkonen, it's Cale Makar. You can say, okay, we had a little bit of a trouble with that line. What I found concerning was that the next lines that came rolling out for the Colorado Avalanche, there wasn't an ability by the Winnipeg Jets. Quite often, you'll send out Adam Lowry's line, that third line, out to kind of bend the momentum back in your direction, take the puck, take it down into the opposition and sock them in. That we weren't seeing that tonight. We saw Colorado completely and totally take over this game. And I will say this, I think my analysis stands true. The Winnipeg Jets are the quickest team to get to their game in the NHL. They're usually one of the quickest teams to do that. They've got their identity. They know who they are. I said this, and I've said it multiple times on this podcast. The Jets aren't showing us a lot that we don't already know about the Winnipeg Jets. They know how to compete. They know how to expose teams, especially lesser teams. They know how to get the most out of themselves in the regular season. The question that they face this season that we really can't answer until the playoffs come around is when they go to play that elevated style against teams that can elevate. Are they able to elevate as well? And regardless of the fact that the Winnipeg Jets got 2 points on this night, regardless of the fact they have the best goalie in the world who put on a best goalie in the world performance, I would say this is the kind of game that leaves more questions and more doubts than it gives you answers about what will happen with this Winnipeg Jets team when things get the craziest at the craziest time of year. Because I'm saying this right now, this looked a lot to me like what happened to a Winnipeg Jets team that was rolling last year and hit the playoffs, and then this Colorado Avalanche team turned it and dominated them. That's what we saw here tonight. The Jets got the 2 points, but they got absolutely no peace of mind out of this game. That's my take on the whole thing. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business for his take. Here comes Ken, folks. First of all, Ken, just want to say, Tishu, don't get too familiar with me here, telling me just to get the headband on, bringing Ken enough BS talk. Don't get too familiar with me. Have some respect in the way that you talk to people. You can disagree with me. Don't chide me. Don't show up here in my house to chide me. Ken, you look great. You look like $1 million. Vittorio Rossi, man. This is like the dress on the internet that like some people see blue, some people see yellow or whatever it is. I see blue. And I think last time the audience was with me on that one, but nice subtlety to it and a great tie to go with it. I know that I had some people reaching out to me because I was on Sportsnet earlier on today and had a number of people reach out and talk to me about my new suit. This isn't a new suit. I believe I wore this for the first time in Cole Perfetti's first game ever in the NHL. So I've had this one for a while. Why does it look fresh? Well, because I can tell you, the folks at Vittorio Rossi, they know how to put together a timeless look. So if you want to look timeless, you know what to do. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up right. Get you one of those suits. I can tell you this, Ken. Don't want to talk about the other guys. I've talked about it on this podcast before. The first suit I ever got, I went out and I played it at the let's call it a box store type place to go get my suit. I went out and I bought a suit. I spent a significant chunk of change when I was a young man, and I didn't have a lot of chunks of change lying around, and wore the suit once. And the next time I put it on, it looked so ridiculous and dated. I'm pulling stuff out of the closet that Vittorio gave me 8 years ago, and it looks like it's like right on point. So again,
there you go.
they know what they're doing. Head on down there and do that. Ken, you know what you're doing. You know what you saw here tonight. Give it to us here. What'd you see, bud?
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly not the blueprint the Jets were looking for. But I mean, the one thing I would maybe not counter, but I would say that the Jets did a better job of playing when under duress, whereas kind of last year it kind of spiraled out of control in games 2 to 5. I thought that even though they were giving up chances, they were doing a better job of limiting the chance. It wasn't a barrage in front of Hellebuyck like it was last year. Yes, there were some high tips. Yes, there were some dangerous chances. High dangers, according to Natural Stat Trick, were 11 to 5 at 5-on-5 play for the Avalanche in this one. 15 shots on goal in the third, 5-1 high danger chances against. So I mean, that certainly wasn't the blueprint there. Gabe Vilardi, definitely agreed with that assessment and wasn't trying to pretend, but he also pulled out the Kelly Rudy line, Sean, in the scrum too. He said he's not going to apologize for the Jets having good goaltending, and it's so interesting, Sean. Right? Earlier this week on Monday, Hellebuyck was talking about. I mean, he didn't use the word passenger, but he basically was implying that he had not been under siege yet this year. He hadn't really had to go out and steal a game, for lack of a better term. And today he did. So the Jets got him some offense early. And, vintage Connor Hellebuyck, when we walked in the room today, he was applauding Gabe Vilardi for the, beautiful rooftop play to convert the 2-on-1. And, he basically took care of the rest, right? I mean, that's what we saw today. I mean, yes, the Avalanche were understaffed and everything else. We understand that. But, Sean, you and I have been around Colorado enough, and we're on the ice, literally interviewing players half an hour after they raised a trophy. So these guys know how to win. They know how to make it difficult, even when they don't have their full lineup. And at the same time, I think the Jets actually did a pretty decent job of, containing Nathan MacKinnon and keeping him and Cale Makar off the board is a difficult task, right? I mean, those are guys that have been lighting it up pretty much every game. MacKinnon came into the game leading the NHL in scoring. Was he still dangerous on occasion? Of course he was. He's one of the best, if not the best players in the NHL. 4 shots on net, 8 shot attempts. I actually thought there were a couple of times for me. I mean, Sean, you and I both watched him plenty. I thought he overpassed a little bit. He kind of got into, dare I say, snake charmer mode a few times, looking for a perfect play. But
Totally.
I also would say that the Jets' ability to defend played into that. And, when a team is able to be confident, and I think your point about the guts of the ice, I thought it was an extremely good one. I mean, yes, there were still chances by the Avalanche for sure, but the Jets limited again, 11 is still a high number, and Scott O'Neill won't be happy with the number. But again, I think that Connor Hellebuyck was able to square up on most of those chances, right? And I also would say that earlier on in the game, there were a couple of missed nets, kind of, I wouldn't say wide open nets, but Connor Hellebuyck did what he does against some teams, kind of gets in their heads. Guys have to look for a perfect shot, and then you're whistling it rather than, maybe going bar down if you feel like you have a chance to have that split second. Though, again, I just think that overall, again, we're not going to pretend that this was a template game for the Jets. It certainly was not. But at the same time, they didn't get overwhelmed to the point where they were constantly chasing. Now, they spent too much time in their own end, absolutely. But we've seen when in years past, when the Avalanche find that next level and play in hyper speed mode, they skate teams out of the rink, and that just simply didn't happen today. And of course, Connor Hellebuyck had something to do with that. But I think the Jets' ability to kind of weather the storm will go down as one of the few positives they would take out of this game.
Yeah, and I'll give credit to that. Again, Ken, I don't know that we had as many Johnson Group got you covered candidates in a game this year as we maybe had in this game, and that says something.
Agreed.
Right? That says them. But I do want to, like, I don't know if I need to clarify, but a couple of things here. Like, C-Jury kind of has a great point here. Is there another Jets win this year that felt like we didn't deserve it? Here's something that's important to say. When you go on a winning streak, the likes of with the Jets are going on right now, and I think coming into this game, it was 6 teams in NHL history that had gone 12-1 to start the season. So now it's 13-1. I don't know how many, but this is rarefied air. And here's the deal. The vast majority of winning streaks that you see like this are consisted of a number of wins that the team probably didn't deserve to get, right? So C-Jury makes a good point here, because I honestly do think, even though there were some kind of near miracle comeback games, like thinking clearly of the Chicago Blackhawks game where the Jets tied up late and then win it in overtime, and some of the things that we've seen from them so far this year, I agree 1,000% with C-Jury here. And this is something you have to give the Winnipeg Jets credit for. I do think this is the only this is the only win the Winnipeg Jets have taken this year that they weren't the better team on the ice. And that says a lot.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing I do want to say and get into some of the things some people are saying here. Andrew Hellebuyck says, I think Andrew Hellebuyck thinks I'm being unfair. And I get the sense a lot of people think I'm being unfair here. I'll get to where I'm going, why I'm saying these things. But Andrew Hellebuyck says, if McKinnon dominates, the Avs are great. If Helly dominates, we are fortunate. Seems biased. I think there's a little bit of a difference here tonight. Like, Connor Hellebuyck shut the door, but the Colorado Avalanche looked like they were on like a 25-minute power play. Like 5-on-5, they were moving the puck untouched and unchallenged in a manner that allowed them to go from being outshot 19-10 to ending the game, what was it, 32-28 or something like that. It was
34-28. Yeah.
So you're getting outshot at some point 24-9 in a game that basically, and I agree with this, the Winnipeg Jets, someone made the point too, the Winnipeg Jets started dominating. The only reason I think this is here, True North Ducky says, so we outplayed them for a period a little bit, and all of a sudden there's all this worry. Unbelievable. This is the reason why I would point to anything here. I'm not sounding the alarm bells, and really there's no reason to sound alarm bells. The playoffs are miles away. But the one thing I would take out of this game right now is the Colorado Avalanche found a way to hit a level in this game that the Winnipeg Jets could not follow. Now, we can debate whether or not it's because it was self-inflicted, whether the Jets shot themselves in the foot. Their head coach surely believes that. But people, what are we talking about here? The Winnipeg Jets had won 8 straight games and had dominated the Colorado Avalanche heading into the playoffs last year. And then there was a monumental shift that turned, and suddenly it looked like the roles had reversed. And we saw that here tonight. So I know, hey, maybe people want to play the ostriches. Maybe people want to bury their heads in the sand. Maybe it's not a big deal. Again, it's November. I think there's lots of time to figure these kind of things out. But I think you are absolutely crazy if you are not looking at this game and thinking the same thing that happened that ended the Jets season last year almost ended a winning streak for them here tonight. And the only reason it didn't happen is because Connor Hellebuyck was spectacular. Hey, before you can tackle a problem, you have to admit there's a problem. And this sure looks like the problem that the Winnipeg Jets had with the Colorado Avalanche last year.
Yeah, I mean, the high danger chances were 10-2 in the last 2 periods. This wasn't just a period and change. Like, this is scientific evidence, folks who don't believe that it was concerning. And the fact that Gabe Vilardi kind of they don't need to apologize, waiters. No, and they're not lucky.
And I think we just made it pretty clear they're not lucky. This was
the first one of 13 where they weren't the better team. I mean, that's impressive. I mean, it's impressive. The record is impressive.
It is impossible to be that consistent. The Jets are insanely consistent. And that could be, hey, everything we're talking about, that could be what happened tonight. The Jets could have had, maybe run out of gas or had a little bit of an off night there in the middle of a tough schedule. There's a million reasons this could happen. All we know is what happened was similar to what took them down in the playoffs last year against the same team who seemed to expose some of the similar issues that led to their downfall last year.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Arniel didn't really want to get into it, but I mean, there were too many rush chances against Sean, and those rush chances were due to poor puck management, which was something that absolutely cost the Jets during the playoffs. Now, they didn't crumple this time, right? So I mean, that is a check mark in their category. I mean, that's a step forward, but yeah, I mean, this just wasn't a good game on a lot of difference, on a lot of fronts for the Jets, and they know that. So, Gabe Vilardi pointed it out before even a question was asked about not playing their best. Those guys know that. It was a Mel the Great. Jets survived that game. They were in survival mode for the better part of the last two periods.
Yeah.
And it to the point where Scott Arniel changed all four of his lines momentarily, including breaking up the third line, Sean. And absolutely, he did go back to it very quickly, but he was looking for answers, and he didn't have a lot of guys. Again, the coach is looking for a spark, and it's hard to get a spark when not very many players are moving their feet and getting things accomplished on the ice. So, again, I think that's smart coaching. It's not panicking. It's a night where you're just giving your team a little bit of a jolt, and then you kind of go back on a couple of things. And again, folks, it's not every game's a Picasso, as Claude Noel so famously said a long time ago, very many moons ago when the Jets were here arriving in 2011. I mean, teams don't need to apologize for it not looking perfect every night. And the classic line, the other team gets paid too. Well, the Colorado Avalanche they're trying to get their season going, and what better way for them to try to get their season going than to try to send a message to a team they eliminated. Greg Johnson says he thought the Jets would come up hungrier. I mean, I'm just going to say this here to Greg. I mean, it's not that the Jets weren't hungry, but you can't manufacture as much as, I mean, again, we in the media are guilty of this. Fans are guilty of it too. You cannot artificially, create playoff atmospheres in a game 14, Sean, right?
Yeah.
Game 14, there's no way it can be that. You just can't manufacture that. It's just not possible because that's not what is at stake. So the Jets wanted to get going. And I mean, we talked about it. And Sean, the most important development in this game was Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuyck battling through traffic that gave him difficulty against the Avalanche. There were plenty of high tips. There were plenty of slot shots. There were plenty of shots from the point. That's impressive. Connor, back-to-back shutouts. He's done so many things in his career, Sean. First time in 10 seasons that he has posted back-to-back shutouts in an NHL game.
Yeah.
And that's an insane amount. It's an insane stat for a guy who's been as successful as he has. 40 career shutouts. That's another check mark, Sean, right? This is Connor Hellebuyck saying this year he wanted to be, 300? He wants to be 350 and whatever the third one is there. It's an impressive mark. He checks off another box, and the 300 wins is next on the docket, right? So him playing well, no one needs to apologize for that. He hasn't been leaned on at a great deal. He was great in the early going against Edmonton before the Jets blew them out. He's been very rock solid throughout, but this was a game for him that, whether he says it or not, having any additional meaning, this game was important for Connor Hellebuyck, and he put up a goose egg. Like, you can't do anything better in that game if you're Connor Hellebuyck other than what he just did.
Okay, I want to dive into this a little bit, the importance of this, because I walk out of this thinking that, and I asked the question afterwards of Scott Arniel if there's like a little bit of a slaying the demon thing. But before we do get, I just want to close this out because we're happening here. I actually find it kind of interesting, but we've seen this year after year. I know that when we talk about things that we look at with the Jets, because Ken, you and I are trying to analyze, our job this year is to see where I went wrong for sure heading into the playoffs, where I thought that the Winnipeg Jets were going to walk all over the Colorado Avalanche. And that's what I said heading into it. And then that didn't happen. We need to figure out what happens. It's our job to try and figure that out. More so, it's the job of the coaching staff and the players to figure out to make it work. I get how fans don't want to. I think they get a little bit scared to kind of look in the mirror and think that there's actual concern. So you get the same old stuff that, oh, it's early in the season and it's this and they were due for this and it's the schedule and all these kind of things. I think I couldn't sum it up better than what Matt Hyman said here. No matter the record, they should try to improve on their weaknesses. I couldn't have put this better. This is the Arctic Spas hot take of the show. Bang on, not even close. Matt Hyman, get out of my hot tub. You are tweeting in the show right now, outside, sitting in my hot tub, because you have to be in an Arctic Spas hot tub to get that hot of a take, because there's no such thing as a cold take in an Arctic Spas hot tub. Of course, you can go there and talk to my main man there and get one of the Spa Boy pack Arctic Spas hot tubs there. So what you got to do is same thing as with Vittorio. Head on down, walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. And if you're going for a hot tub, I can tell you right now from personal experience, this is the place to get it. Also, Ken, we should touch on the 1,000-game man tonight. He was the guy who told me I needed to be going to Arctic Spas, because he did the same thing. He said, believe me, it's worth it. If it's good enough for 1,000 games for Al Pritchard in the NHL, it's good enough for me. But just to get to that point again, Matt Hyman again saying no matter the record, they should try and improve on their weaknesses. I think this is what I'm trying to say here. Everyone thinks that I'm trying to rain on the parade. What I'm saying here is that this, to me, looks like something that plagued them last year. You got to address your weaknesses. And I would say this, while the audience is fighting me every step of the way on me talking about what we saw here tonight, you know who didn't fight at all is the Winnipeg Jets themselves, who walked out and said that they knew that this was not how they should be doing things. They knew they needed to be better. Not one of them was walking out here talking about like that this was anything other than them getting whooped and Connor Hellebuyck coming in to save the day. And that's what happened here on this night. It's no doubt about it, whether you want to see it or not. But I do want to get back to, Ken, the importance of this, because what you didn't see for the Winnipeg Jets in the playoffs last year was Connor Hellebuyck coming to save the day for the Winnipeg Jets in the playoffs against an Avalanche team that started rolling and kind of dominated in that series, how they did in this series. What do you think the importance of that is, Ken? I know, like we said, I've talked about what Connor Hellebuyck needs to do going forward to raise his level in the playoffs, and you can't do that tonight. But I do think that there's a little bit of a message I don't think he's sending a message to the hockey world, Ken. I don't think he's sending a message to us. I don't think he's sending a message to the fans. I don't think he's sending a message to the Colorado Avalanche. I think he sent himself a message tonight, wanting to come out and show the Colorado Avalanche that there is a level that he can get to that can affect their outcome. And I thought he did it tonight.
Oh, just absolutely fantastic. I mean, we've talked about this all year, Sean, as kind of under the radar as he's flown at times this year. In his 11 starts, 10-1 record, 3 shutouts, 191 goals against, and 932 save percentage. I mean, this is Vezina Buck territory, right? As a guy who, of course, is chasing his first cup, but I mean, he's also chasing his third Vezina, whether he wants to admit it or not. I mean, you're always trying to be the best at your position. He wants to be the best at his position every time he steps on the ice. So to do it at this consistent level so far, whether he's intending to send a message or not, he is sending a message to the entire league that he is back at that level and he wants to play at that level in the games that matter the most. He wants to have a defining moment again under the bright lights of the big city, right? I mean, but like you said, Sean, the only thing you can do during the regular season is stack wins. I mean, that's what every team is trying to do. If you're Connor Hellebuyck, you need to do whatever you can to get ready for April, whatever the date is, 15th, 18th, 16th, whatever the date it starts. Connor Hellebuyck wants to be playing in June. He doesn't want to be going, collecting another trophy. that isn't the one that he's chasing. He wants to be playing at an elite level when it's time for the real games to start. But you can't just flip a switch if you're Connor Hellebuyck. You have to be playing during the year. He talked about rhythm again, Sean. He is obviously in a rhythm now, but the big thing is staying in the rhythm throughout the marathon of that is the season. And we're going to talk about it again. At some point in the next 3 games, Sean, Eric Comrie needs another start, right? Eric Comrie needs another start. Do I think it's against the Dallas Stars? No. Could it be against the New York Rangers? Yes, but I do think that, MSG, Shesterkin versus Hellebuyck, I think he wants that game. I think Eric Comrie's next start is against the Tampa Bay Lightning in Tampa. But anyways, Hellebuyck has been absolutely dominant. He's been fantastic, and he is a very determined individual. And again, he doesn't like to peel back the curtain very much, Sean, but he went into the lab in the offseason and he came back a very determined individual, and he wants to shine. He wants to have a career-defining playoff run, but you can't do that unless you're playing at an elite level during the regular season.
I wanted to bring up Waiter's comment here where he says Jets were disciplined. That's not an issue. At least I thought this was really important tonight, Ken.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
As what we saw from, and I've said this before, it already looked for a good chunk of that game like the Avs were on the power play and just weren't letting the Jets play with the puck. I thought the Jets did a really good job of defending, and I won't even see on that line. There was a couple times I saw Mikko Rantanen complaining where he thought that I think it was Dylan DeMello had got the stick into the hands. And I saw the replay and I was like, boy, if that's what you're complaining about tonight, you're really reaching. So as tough as things were for the Jets against the Colorado Avalanche on this night, and as much of a role as Connor Hellebuyck played in that game, again, I talk about the Jets protecting the guts of the ice, but doing so in a way, Ken, where it's very hard not to take penalties when a team gets rolling like that. How do you take away the Jets' ability to have the discipline that they had on a night like tonight, where I think one is it one?
Yeah, this Morrissey call late in the game, which again was, I don't know, in a 1-goal game. I don't know that if that's game 7 of the Stanley Cup final, Sean, there's no way that gets called holding.
Yeah.
Morrissey the free hand is loose. There's no chance that gets called in game 7.
I think it had more to do with the fact that they'd already called 2 on the Avalanche earlier in the game and everything like that. This is them trying to even things out. So in that respect, I do think it would be called, because I think the officials would have thought, hey, that's why Rantanen goes out and complains in that situation.
Right.
Because then if you leave the feeling that there have been missed calls in the game, then you'll get a soft call, especially if you're down in the call, right? But regardless, Ken, what does it take to be a team that defends the guts of the ice the way the Winnipeg Jets did tonight, to be under assault the way the Winnipeg Jets were tonight, and still not really take any penalties, including one that you don't think was a penalty? So basically, in your mind, the Jets ran the table tonight against a team that you shouldn't be able to do that against. They did it. How'd they do it? What's the mindset that has them doing it?
Well, it's a bunch of things. It's defending with your feet and keeping your stick in control, right? It's very easy to take a tripping minor against Nathan MacKinnon or Cale Makar because of the rate of speed that they play at. So if you're not in a good position, you are going to be, tempted to haul the person down. But that's what I mean. They did a good job of, even when MacKinnon was in dangerous areas, he kind of passed it to a less dangerous area on several occasions. And that's because the Jets defended so well. And the other part too, Sean, to me, the one thing that you can't dispute is their commitment to the structure. Now, the structure broke down a little bit. There's no doubt about that in this game. But at the same time, having the baseline of where the structure is, and the hustle plays and all of those things, that's why you don't get caught in a parade to the penalty box where the Avalanche get 4, 5, 6 chances with the man advantage. And Sean, if the Avalanche get 4, 5, or 6 chances, it's going to be a long night for their opponent on a lot of nights. Now, the Jets, we know, have the best power play in the league, but I think Colorado went in at number 2 going in to the game. So you can't allow them to use special teams to, get themselves going, because we know they're thin up front right now. I mean, there's no hiding that. I mean, Jared Bednar, he spun it in a way and it's not spin for him. The best news for the Avalanche with all their injuries is they're getting a chance to see a bunch of these players that are new to the organization.
Yeah.
That could help them down the stretch and into but I mean, they're hoping to get some of their guys back. Anyways, the original question, the Jets' ability to defend is happening from a lot of things: commitment and ability to believe in the system. And as you mentioned, if you protect the guts, you're not going to be giving up the type of chances that Connor Hellebuyck lets in very often, because we've said it a ton, Sean. If he sees it and he knows where it's coming from, he's going to stop it on the majority of the occasions, as his numbers so eloquently support the theory.
Line switch ups. Let's get to that. But before we do that, I want you to give Sweet Lou a shout out.
Right on. For folks who have realty needs they'd like to have met, whether you're buying, selling, curious what the house in the corner is going for, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin. Excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community.
I love Sweet Lou. Also, I love it. Hey, I love all the shout outs usually, but I do love it too when folks from out and about send things. And so we get one here. Shout out to everyone in the chat, including Kenny and Renny. Keep up the good work on the channel. Appreciate it. And shout out from the South Bronx. Loving it. Brother BKL Contreras, aka the Sportertainment guy. Love it.
Thank you for listening.
Some, Jets fan sitting there in the Bronx and get diving in with the Kenny and Renny crew afterwards. Up some good stuff there. Line switch ups. I saw an effectiveness there. I think the most interesting part about that, Ken, as much as they jumbled, and I do know that at some point Scott Arniel went back to the third line because he said he needed
it was two shifts.
Right?
Yeah.
But how telling is it to you, or what do you take away from the idea when he does break things up? He goes back to what has been a familiar place in the past, and that would be moving out Kyle Connor for Nikolai Ehlers. Explain it.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that it's tough for a coach, Sean. I'm going to put it this way. When a team is 12-1, you're not just going to fire up the old blender and throw it up to industrial speed at your leisure. But at the same time, it's Scott Arniel showing that he's not just happy with the status quo. And on a game where not a lot of guys are rolling, he wanted to try to see if he could light up, get a spark going from lighting the match here. So, again, I thought that Kyle Connor, when Scott Arniel pointed it out in the post-game presser, I mean, right away that line had a 2-on-1 opportunity, and Vladislav Nemestikov was looking for Kyle Connor. It didn't work, but he probably should have shot. But it's easy to see from our press box level at the vantage point on the ice, you understand why Vladislav Nemestikov is looking for Kyle Connor in there. He's one of the best finishers in the NHL. So if you have an odd man rush, it's natural to look for him. Did Nikolai Ehlers help get that line going a bit? I don't know. I mean, I thought he was fine there, but I've said this before. It's that piece of the puzzle and the pie that was so incredible from December 10th till the 23rd. It just hasn't been that immediate spark that we had seen at when the line was first put together out of necessity. So, and again, I'm not knocking that line. Those guys, I think, can be given some additional opportunity, whether it's in the next game or down the road. I'm all for having them given another chance. At the same time, I think the other thing we have to acknowledge is that, folks were piling on at their leisure when that line was getting outscored 9-2 at even strength. That tally now is 10-9 and in goals against versus goals for. So they've come a long way in sort of getting back to even on the ledger. So anyways, I don't expect, I think you flip black to the regular lines, but I think showing that willingness to go to the well, even when a team is 12-1, I think is important. So that is it's not message sending. It's just a belief that the Jets aren't going to roll the same four lines all year long, and they're going to need guys to be able to show they're malleable and can play with other people. And that, whether that's Kyle Connor or Nikolai Ehlers or Alex Iafallo, I mean, they've got a bunch of guys. And when you play the game the right way, and when you ask them to play a certain way and style, then guys should be able to meld into whatever role they're asked to play on whatever line they're asked to play.
I just want to go a little bit on Scott Arniel here
Sure.
and say, because this is something I think I've taken for granted so far, Ken, because we talked about this at length on shows in the last 2 years. But when you come out of the Paul Maurice era and take that for what you will, I took it as an area where there weren't a lot of truths being told about the Winnipeg Jets and what they were going through. I think those truths were maybe acknowledged within the room, maybe not acknowledged within the room, but they were definitely kept within the room, and they weren't brought out and spoken in front of the media and in front of the fan base, right? And so I gave a ton of credit in this space. I think you did as well, Ken, that Rick Bowness came in and started just talking a lot of truths and saying, well, you saw what happened out there. This wasn't our best game. You didn't hear that. You didn't hear, you heard a lot of the like patting on the back and, oh, found a way to win and all those different kind of things when the Jets were maybe playing a little bit of an unsustainable style. And let's be honest, to get back to saying it, like if anyone thinks that out there was a sustainable way of beating a team repeatedly, that wasn't going to be it. I haven't given that credit to Scott Arniel this year, but the one thing I've seen so far this year, Ken, Scott Arniel is batting 1,000 on the nights where something is slipping in the Winnipeg Jets game and he needs to address it. Again, what I've always loved about this is Scott Arniel coming out and saying to us on a night like tonight, it wasn't there. In the Toronto game, there was a game before that, I believe it was Seattle. Yeah, in the Seattle game, he didn't necessarily like what he saw, which put a game, in peril. Seattle?
St. Louis. It was a St. Louis start. The first period was pretty poor, I think.
Right, but I do think also in the Seattle game, he'd said something about that game. Oh, because that's the game where they Seattle
second
came
period
back
they didn't
down
like.
2.
Yes.
Yeah. So here's the thing. What I typically see in a coach that is willing to walk up in front of the media and in front of the fans by virtue, when they walk up and they're willing to say, yeah, that's not okay. We didn't like it. We need to be better. It's the way I've always said this, of like opening up the closet door and dragging out the boogeyman and saying, listen, this is what we're dealing with right now, but we're dealing with it. And you should know that we're dealing with it and we're going to tackle this, right? I have to say this, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, but Scott Arniel has picked up right where Rick Bowness left off. Ken, I think I said this to you. It was one of the things that I thought when Scott Arniel was coming in to take over, and I had questioned if he'd be as much of a truth teller as Rick Bowness was, because I think that this was a team that needed hard truths from its coach. I think they got those hard truths from Rick Bowness, and it's helped change the culture. It's helped turn them into a defensive team. It's helped them turn them into a more honest team. It's helped turn them into a more consistent effort team. And I am here to say right now, this many games into the season, we have seen, I've learned without a doubt that Scott Arniel is equal to the task that Rick Bowness set down of holding the Winnipeg Jets accountable, not being afraid to point out when things aren't going well. I think that's a good thing and good for future success, and good to understand that games like this may be isolated incidents because they will address what went wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And what you're talking about is having a standard. And that's the entire reason why we spent the first half an hour or 40 minutes, what some people would say nitpicking. I mean, when a team doesn't play up to its standard, you have two choices: sweep it under the rug or to attack it. So I think the Jets have chosen the latter. They've chosen to attack those areas that they need to get better at. And Sean, I think this is a perfect time for the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, because for people who didn't know enough about Scott Arniel and his career as an associate and an assistant and as a head coach at various levels outside of his time in Columbus, that were, all those people saying Scott wouldn't be up to the task, we don't see them in this chat room right now, Sean. And that's why, and again, there's no victory laps for anyone after 14 games. There's a lot of work left to be done. But what you're seeing from Scott Arniel tells you that he's up for the task. And that's why it's wake up territory. and it's a pristine wake up call to those folks right there.
Well, you know what that means. Time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake up call. He's the guy you call.
He's in the chat room right now.
Well, there he is. Hey, give him the wake up call right now. Inundate him, folks. If you have any roofing, siding, or exterior needs, he's the guy that you call to head on down to your place. He'll take a look at everything, let you know what you need, or you can call Pristine Roofing themselves at 204-237-7663. Ken, would you say that it was a payoff worthy effort tonight by the when the lines changed? Like, would you let's say this: the Winnipeg Jets survived. They're putting it at the feet of Connor Hellebuyck. But do you think part of that survival had to do with the way that he operated his lines and changed the lines up?
Yeah, I mean, it's meant to snap your group to attention, right? And it doesn't have to be for 5 games; it can be for 2 shifts sometimes. So.
Yeah, okay. Well, then that's good enough for me. Ken says it paid off, and I agree it paid off. And hey, if you are looking to pay off high-interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt-free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. I wanted to talk again because I don't know how this happened, but I feel like I'm kind of leading the charge on this. And just reiterate, Mark Scheifele, I personally think, remember Mark Scheifele when Blake Wheeler left, he said he's the best passer I've ever played with. I'm going to say it right now. I think there's no God mode here. The God mode of passing, I think, is Wayne Gretzky and Wayne Gretzky alone. But if we are talking about the close level, definitely for the Winnipeg Jets, and I think the standard for about 2 years in the league was Blake Wheeler as a passer, as a puck distributor. Mark Scheifele, after Blake Wheeler left, said he said of him, he's the best passer I've ever played with. I'm going to say it right now, Ken, and we get another example tonight. The game-winning goal, the only goal, is a pass on a 2-on-1 that I thought the defender played phenomenally. Ken gets his stick down to block the pass, gets his glove down to try and get in the way, and Mark Scheifele somehow gets it under the glove perfectly on the stick, and it's in the back of the net. I say this, Ken, am I right or wrong? Mark Scheifele has reached in his passing game right now peak Blake Wheeler level puck distribution. Am I right or wrong?
Reaching is what I would say. I just think that Blake did it for a little bit longer stretch of time still.
For sure.
And I would say that he's in the conversation. I think that he's still got some work to do.
Let's
from
put
those
it this
peak
way.
91, those back-to-back 91-point seasons.
It's what I'm saying. 2 years he did. I'm by no means saying that the accomplishment is equal, but are we seeing from right now
shades, yes,
shades of, or a stretch of hockey at the beginning of this year that you would put at the same level that Blake Wheeler was as a puck distributor?
For sure. That's a humongous compliment because at his peak, Blake was a top 3 to 4 passer in the NHL.
Well, no, best in the league. Best passer in the league. And I don't know that it's debatable. Best passer in the league at a time. I think that, like some of the levels have raised up since then. Like I just think hockey's getting more and more skilled. But Mark Scheifele is insane. And I doubled down and I've been singing it from the rafters and I've been saying it to everyone that I talk to. Mark Scheifele is going to Team Canada this year. I don't see... I started going through the guys you're going to be on Canada. Put it this way. If Nathan MacKinnon is on there and somehow you had to use Mark Scheifele on his line, do you believe Mark Scheifele could play on a line with Nate MacKinnon?
Yes,
I think the answer is yes. He showed that he could do it with Connor McDavid on Team North America all those years ago, and they know each other from the off seasons, and they get along. They like each other. You could put him there. Take all the best players that are going to be on that team and ask yourself, could Mark Scheifele effectively play with those guys right now? Could you imagine, hey, Gabe Vilardi getting that pass? If Connor McDavid is getting that pass, it's in the back of the net. If Sidney Crosby is getting that pass, Nate MacKinnon, they would love to be getting the puck on their stick from a guy like Mark Scheifele the way he's playing right now. I just thought tonight was another example of him reaching Winnipeg Jets version of God mode, the very top of the pyramid, which would be Blake Wheeler. I think he's at that level right now. He's not at that level for 2 years, which is what it would take to be even in the conversation of where he was as an overall puck distributor. But that level, to me, Ken, I think has gone to a place it hasn't ever been before.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked Gabe Vilardi about it, because he gave such a great answer about the golden triangle, right? I mean, he's always looking for the places where the defenseman thinks that he has it covered, except there's certain places you can't cover, even when you're playing something perfectly, right? So that ability to find it and then still put it on the tape is just absolutely exceptional. I mean, the pass that he made today was like, it's one of the best passes you'll see this year. And again, to me, it's reminiscent of Hellebuyck, right? It's reminiscent of Hellebuyck because that's an incredibly difficult pass to make on the tape as a saucer pass with a very limited area available to get the puck onto the tape of Vilardi. And then Vilardi absolutely shows great patience and roofs the chance, right? I mean, it was just exceptional. The play was exceptional. And for Scheifele, I mean, what you just talked about that's Mike Keenan throwing Dale Hawerchuk over the boards with Gretzky and Lemieux territory, right? I mean, that's what you might have an opportunity to see when Team Canada rolls out in February. So anyways, I think it's an exciting time for Mark. I mean, I know that it's something that he wants. I think it'd be something that would be incredibly helpful for his career for the next time he attacks the playoffs. Playing for Team Canada, being recognized as a one of the 23 best players in your country at a time when it's at an all-time peak for talent and skill and all of those things. I do think that Mark is playing exceptional hockey, two-way hockey. I thought he had a couple nice back checks in the game again today, and he's playing exceptional right now, playing very well.
I can't even keep up with what Vern Ficto thinks I did wrong again, but he's stated wrong again, Renny. So there you go. I'm wrong, folks. Let's see if I can get it right as we move to the Johnson Group Got You Covered play of the game. What do you got, Ken?
You know what? There's so many great opportunities in this one, but I think that the first one that I identified in the game is the one that I'm going to stick with. I think Pionk takes away a sure goal in the first period. On the play around the net, where looked like it was going to be going in front. Neil Pionk intercepts and does the job to prevent the goal. So that's why I'm going with that one. I know there are other options, and honorable mention to his desperation station play where it looks like McKinnon's going to blow by him, but he kind of gets him with the sweep around, which I don't think it was necessarily planned, but it was something where he knew he didn't give up on the play and did an exceptional job of ensuring it wasn't a breakaway, but a little bit unconventional. Let's just call it unconventional.
Yeah, well, hey, a lot of players make that mistake and they feel like they're going to give up on the play, right? Or they're going to turn and they're going to try and get to the bench as quick as possible. I've got it. Pionk stopping the puck, heading into the open net. The one time that Connor Hellebuyck was not in a position to save the Winnipeg Jets on this night, and he's saved by his teammate. That's the We've Got You Covered play of the game if I've seen one. No doubt in my mind, that's what I think. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. All right, moving on to the keg save of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Oh, Hellebuyck just made a couple of exceptional ones overall, several down the stretch when he really needed them. I thought the rebound chance the rebound chance on Makar is the one that I'm going to go with.
Yeah,
I thought the McKinnon try that did hit his pad first and then clip the post was a really, really good save. But after the Devon Taves chance and then the rebound for Makar, I thought that was absolutely all world for Hellebuyck. So I'm going with that one.
I'm going to do something that'll just make everyone crazy. I'm giving it to Giorgio.
There's a good one there too.
On the Ehlers save. Like I do have to.
Top shelf.
So here's the deal. Last game, I would need to make this clear. Last game, I'd said Connor Hellebuyck comes away with the shutout, and I think it's a night that the Jets team game was so solid that you could make an argument that he wasn't one of the top 3 stars of the game. You can't do that on this night. Connor Hellebuyck is the number 1 star. But if you really think about it, a close second in this game is Alexander Georgiev. Was phenomenal in this game, played really well. People have made the point that the Jets were the dominant team in the first period, and they're right to make that point. The Jets were, and to the beginning of the second period, Georgiev, I thought, faced a lot of traffic tonight, just like Connor Hellebuyck did, fought his way through that traffic, played well. I just think that save on Nikolai Ehlers, hey, if it's a diving competition, the degree of difficulty on that save is higher than the Connor Hellebuyck save. And not only that, but getting across the way that he did, but getting across in a way that he still manages to position his pad in the net. So if it's on the ice, if it's on the ice, it's in because his pad is in the net, but he reads the play, gets the glove across, sacrifices the pad to put himself into a position where he can lean and keep the glove out of the net, keeps the puck out, and has enough strength to, as Nikolai Ehlers tries to push the glove in. Crazy. And I'm going to say this, Connor Hellebuyck is the best goaltender in the world, back-to-back shutouts. He's on his way to another Vezina campaign. He was the best player in this game tonight. But
he won the Renny meter. He won the Renny meter today.
Yes, there you go. The Renny stat. Who's the best goaltender in this game? It was Connor Hellebuyck. But he does not win my keg save of the game. But you know what? For those of you who are upset that I said that, it doesn't matter. It never matters what I think or what Ken thinks. It only matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag, the keg save of the game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And our winner from the last show, that would be Schickster. Schickster, I think I saw you in there. You know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I'll have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. Oh, I love it in real time when I see the excitement, as Schickster says, woot. I'm excited to share our TCB lamplighter, Ken. What do you got? I mean,
this is tough to mess with. Tough to mess this one up. I think people are going to have to agree for once. So the goal of the game is Mark Scheifele 2-on-1 to Gabriel Vilardi. A whopping 66 seconds into the contest. It was a beautifully executed play, an exceptional pass followed up by a tremendous finish and a rooftop shot by Gabe Vilardi. Even Connor Hellebuyck was impressed, and he stated it.
Yeah,
sang it from the rooftops.
That was a nice moment. I mean, okay, so let's close this out, but talk a little bit about Gabe Vilardi, who scored what, five goals in 6 games, or 6 and 5?
6 and 8 now. 6 and 8.
Sorry,
5 and 6.
I was way off. 5 and oh yeah, I was right. You corrected me when oh boy, the pretentiousness of correcting a guy when he was right.
You said 5 of 7.
I said no. I said 5 of 6 or 6.
You said 6 and 5. Never mind. You said 5 and 7 first.
I didn't.
We'll have to rewind the tape.
You can rewind it. The folks, hey, back me up on this one. I know I said 5 or 6.
6 of 8 is good. Just
go with 6. Anyways, it doesn't matter what we think, but today it does matter because there's only one goal. So all of you are agreeing with us. Finally, 100%.
We finally got something right. Yeah, exactly.
KNR. There's 100% consensus on KR on what the TCB lamplighter was of the night. The most impressive goal, which was impressive. Phenomenal pass by Mark Scheifele. Great finish as usual, as is becoming a habit with Gabriel Vilardi. Share with us your hashtag TCB lamplighter of the game. You're automatically entered to win an 8-pack of frosty, delicious lamplighter amber ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you yours, you know what to do. Head on down to 11290 Kenniston. Join them in their tap room where they have great food, great atmosphere, great music. Quite often the staff is great, and we're not even getting to like the pizza and the beers and all the kind of stuff. It's my favorite place in the world to hang out in and to go to. And I'm happy to say myself and Johnny Lou and our camera guys have set up a date. We're going to head on down there for our little annual kind of Christmas tradition that we have there. I'm very much looking forward to it, as I'm looking forward to announcing our winner of the TCB. They were in earlier on. They've been through most of the show. Julian Moosh, Meush. You are the winner of the lamplighter from our last show. So you know what that means. Time to kick into action and share with me by direct message your full name, which I think you've already shared, but do so again, and your email. And you do those things, and I will send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at Transcanada Brewing Company. It is the nectar of the gods. Anything to say, Ken, about Gabe Vilardi before we go?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, Gabe, you asked him about his play, and although he did agree that it had been good recently, even in a game where he had 4 shots on net and 6 shot attempts, he didn't particularly like his game after the first minute and 6 seconds, I believe, or certainly not in the last 2 periods. So that's another good sign, because when you're producing as well as Gabriel Vilardi is right now, and you're still not happy with your game, that means you're holding yourself to a very high standard. And when Gabriel Vilardi is rolling like he is, for the most part, he's a very dangerous weapon for the Winnipeg Jets hockey club right now. So I think he's playing very well. I didn't find him to be, really that off his game all that much, but again, I guess he wasn't happy with the way the team wasn't really rolling the same way that they had been. So Vilardi on a roll is impressive to watch. He needs 29 more to hit my target for him. So we'll see if he gets there, but he's on a very good pace. Let's just put it that way. 6-14.
Starting to look like a genius, Ken. I'll just say this. We shared this. I thought it was pretty timely, pretty apt. And if anyone remembers, I shared a stat that Dave Kazuska from my hockey, from the Poor Bakers hockey team, our beer league hockey team, shared a stat with me about what the Jets record is, because we know that Gabe Vilardi missed a number of games last year. Their record with him in the lineup is and it's probably gone up since then. It's close to an 800 winning or points percentage, whereas without him in the lineup, the Jets are close to a 560, I think it is, without him in the lineup. And that didn't even touch on their record when he scores a goal. Ken, it is ridiculous. I can't remember what it was. We shared it in the broadcast. I thought that was a good example of a story that we shared to kind of try and find value. I know that there's going to be analytics that will dive deeper into that, but it is hard to argue that when Gabe Vilardi is contributing to the Winnipeg Jets on the score sheet, it makes them almost impenetrable. And tonight is another example of that. Anyways, great job tonight here, Ken. Ken's got something to say.
Just quickly on Al Pritchard,
Yes.
Sean. I mean, just one of the great guys in hockey. He's from Roland, Manitoba. I've got to know him over the years, obviously, and not just because he's from my southern Manitoba neck of the woods, but this is a guy who's beat cancer twice and was recognized for his 1,000th NHL game today, which is an incredible accomplishment. He had a bunch of buddies in, a bunch of family. He had people fly in from out of province to show their support, and a lot of people who couldn't make it from around North America were sending their thoughts with Al. And again, just a great person. He's an incredibly hard worker. And as someone who knows a little bit about positivity, Sean, and trying to bring that on a daily basis, the energy that he brings to the rink on a daily basis is incredibly impressive. I'm not just sharing this because I wrote another story on Al today, but just a really impressive moment. And he was saluted, and a guy who doesn't want the spotlight, but he deserved it, and he got an ovation, and good on him. Here's to as many more games as are possible for him to enjoy in his NHL career, because this is a guy who relishes every moment in that league and is appreciative of the support that got him there, and the support that has kept him there, and with his family and everyone else who was there to support him there this evening.
Years ago, I did a story. We were doing a hockey night in Canada. The Jets were playing the Los Angeles Kings, and one of their trainers as well had survived cancer. And I had a good conversation with Al before that game. We did a story in game about the whole thing, but Al's life has been, you know, marred by cancer, right, in his family, and his perspective is something I find so fascinating. So the interesting part about it is just the perspective that he has being in the league, and just, fighting his way through that, but the way that he handles, he told me about some tough diagnoses that he's had, and I think he had a funny line to me where he said, like, a doctor at one point said to him, "Hey man, your genetics suck," right? Like, you are
Yeah.
going through these things, and it's basically this thing. Your genetics have put you in a bad spot. And I just, the way that he's handled it, the way that he's bounced back from knowing that. A lot of people take a look at a scenario like that and think, when a doctor is telling you that you've basically lost the lottery, or you've won the reverse lottery, the one that no one wants to win, how people respond to that, the way he's responded to it, and still managed to be the kind of guy who has contributed so strongly to a Winnipeg Jets organization, who I think, and this is a credit to not only him, but the organization, does so many of the off ice things right. Al's a guy who contributes to the culture of a team that gets so many of the off ice things right. Congratulations to him on that. Another thing I thought that they got right, just before you pop in with that, Ken, I loved how they showed him on the bench. I loved how happy the crew looked with him. And I loved that they went and cut away to a shot of his family in the stands, because boy, oh boy, the sacrifices that families have to make with those guys, and the hours they put in with the Jets, and the time they put on the road, that was a great nod. And it sure looked like when the Jumbotron panned from him, or cut from him to his family and back to him, he looked appreciative of it as well. Once again, I've said the Jets handle these things so well. They're silver stick situations, all those different kind of things. The Winnipeg Jets hit this on the nose, and he's a guy who deserves for the Winnipeg Jets to hit it on the nose for him, and they did that tonight.
Yeah, bang on. And that's his wife, Rachel, and kids, Nicholas and Addison, that you're talking about there. And just one last quick one before we head out. Speaking of great people getting acknowledged today, our colleague and friend Jennifer Botterill was among the class of 2025 for the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame there this evening. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get over there. I know cameraman extraordinaire Colin Jensen, I think, got over, Sean, but just wanted to salute our friend and colleague for that great achievement, and also my former colleague Randy Turner, also inducted as part of that class, and that's one of the reasons I got my Hockey Fights Cancer tie on here today. So
next game coming up on Saturday. It was asked, here we go, by Tico Napoli. Kenny and Renny, is there a show Saturday with Bomber game on? I'm just going to say this right now. This is up in the air, folks. You will get a Kenny and Renny post-game show at some point. Clearly, Ken and I both have jobs. We don't know where assignments are going. We don't know where we will be tied up. We will find a way to get you a Kenny and Renny post-game show. We're just not in a place right now when we can tell you exactly where it is. So here's the best thing that you can do, folks, is you can go out and you can make sure that you're subscribed to our channel if you have not already, and just turn your notifications on. And when we are ready to bring you the post-game show, you will get that notification. And hopefully we will see you, because as it was put out there by Russ Lowen, you don't want you don't want Renny calling you a sucky boo-boo. It is just like cutting when that happens. I know. I'm sorry I had to go with that language at one time, folks. But anyways, thank you so much for joining, all of you, even you sucky boo-boos out there who may pick this up at a later time. Ken, you rocked it as always. We will find a way to get you the next Kenny and Renny show. It's going to be a big one, as another stiff challenge comes rolling into town in the Dallas Stars. It's going to be a good one. Can't wait to talk about it. We will see you all then, folks. Bye-bye.